Good afternoon, Rita. It's so good to have you on Holly's Hot Wedding Tips. What a beautiful mansion to be in, the Grant-Humphreys.
Thank you. We love it.
You are so lucky to be here. What does a regular wedding look like here at the Grant-Humphreys mansion?
Well, we find that our weddings are very much based on folks that are looking for that touch of class, elegance, and charm for their weddings. So on average, weddings are 100 to 120 people, although we can hold up to 200. We usually have our ceremonies outside. We have a beautiful lawn. We've got a south terrace. It looks like it's a Greek colonnade, beautiful out there, and then cocktail hour outside. Then we usually have dinner on the main level. We have 3 beautiful large spaces that we can do that, all adjacent to each other. And then we have dancing and the party portion in our ballroom. We have a built-in ballroom at the house, and it's been literally used for dancing ever since 1902. It was built for that purpose, still being used for that purpose.
Wow, that is just amazing. What's the most unusual wedding you've ever done?
That's a good question. I do have one coming up actually, and it's a Sri Lankan wedding. So the groom's Sri Lankan and the bride is from Chicago. So they're going to have Chicago dogs and curry as their wedding banquet. I also had a Hindu couple that literally created a fire pit and jumped over it as part of their ceremony.
Wow.
We literally had the fire extinguisher right there ready to go. So I love those ethnically diverse mixed weddings. They always have such an interesting twist.
How fun. What's the most memorable wedding you've ever done?
You know, I had a really, really great civil union ceremony before gay marriage was legal. We had these 2 guys have their wedding here, and they've been together for 25 years, and it was just the most beautiful, wonderful, like, human experience. And they were both bawling, and their families were bawling, and we were bawling, and it was just amazing. It made us feel warm. Everyone that was there was warm. It was this amazing joint experience. You could see how long they waited to be together, and that they really appreciated being together. So it was a really, really great experience.
Good, that's great. What don't couples know about historic locations that they need to know when they're renting for events?
Well, historic locations aren't like your typical corporate wedding location. First of all, it is a house. It's an old house. It was built in 1902, so it's got its quirks. It has squeaky floors, and it's got, you know, chipped walls here and there, and, you know, the granite outside isn't perfect, but that's what gives it its character. It's because it's old. That's why it's charming. So if you're looking for that perfectly granite polished palace, you need to find something that was built in 1990. You know, not something that was built in 1902. What we lack in that perfect polish, we gain in that really singular experience. Old homes have a lot of character, they have a lot of history. You are literally standing where people have stood for 100 years or more. You feel connected to the past in old homes. You know they've been used for joyous occasions and good, so there's a lot of good energy in old homes. It doesn't feel cold, it doesn't feel impersonal. I find a lot of weddings that happen in hotels and these mass market spaces, you know, you're literally wedding factories. You're spinning them out one after the other. Here, you get the space for the day. It's like you own a mansion, you get to play with it for a whole day. You know, you get connected to the past through the future. It's really, really a unique experience to have an event in a historic home. Plus, unlike a corporate market, pretty much every dime that comes to us goes right back into the house. So it's all to historic preservation, to preserve our past. Trust me, every dime goes right back into fixing it. And it is well cared for. It is nationally preserved. It is protected, and therefore, you know, we're nonprofit. So you can feel good about yourself because you are actually giving back to your community to help preserve a space.
That's fun. Up there with the green weddings and giving back.
Exactly.
Fabulous. What questions should couples be asking that they don't know to ask?
You know, a lot of people don't know what a wedding costs, and that's what I find. A lot of my couples come in, we are very reasonably priced, so they come here a lot because we're a little less expensive, but they don't realize, you know, what a wedding costs between food and dress and flowers. And so with catering especially, I tell them, if you are wanting to take 50 of your best friends out to a restaurant and have the whole restaurant to yourselves and all the waiters and all the servers and they're just there for you, you have to have realistic expectation with how much that's going to cost. It's, you know, don't automatically feel like it's too expensive. It's all manageable. You know, you work with your caterer on how to afford it, but just be realistic in your expectation. If you guys want an inexpensive wedding, totally doable. You can have a dessert buffet. You can have appetizers. You can do something creative. But if you want a dinner and experience, just be prepared that it's going to cost more than you imagine it would, and that's okay. You just make a plan. I tell them not to panic. Just as long as they stick to their budget and have those realistic expectations. I tell almost every person that comes here to try to keep that open mind, and that every good vendor will work with them if they, if they could find good vendors. So.
Right, that's great. What's the best piece of advice you have for a couple getting married?
It's a stressful process. I've actually had couples cancel their weddings because it was so overwhelmingly stressful for them that they just gave up doing it. So I tell them, every wedding, good wedding, is the ultimate goal is to be married, right?
Right.
So whatever happens, whatever rain, whatever snow, whatever damage or lateness, or your point at the end of the day is to be man and wife. So as long as that happens, you cannot have an unsuccessful wedding. The details, of course, are important, but don't stress them. It's really about the two of you. So as you go through the process, make sure you're communicating, make sure you have a good support network. A lot of emotions rise in planning, everyone's got expectations, but just take a step back and remember it is about the two of you, and ultimately it's your day, so remember that in the process.
Awesome. Tell me about the history of the Grant-Humphreys mansion.
So the house was built in 1902 for the Governor Grant. His portrait's in the hall. He's the third governor of Colorado. For him and his family, it was a private residence. And at that time in Denver, Quality Hill, which is the neighborhood we're in, was way outside of the Denver limits. I mean, Denver was low down. It's like way down there, so this was very isolated. And a lot of the early mansions were built in Capitol Hill, so just a little bit away. And Capitol Hill started becoming too gauche for the rich. A lot of people were moving there, it got crowded. So the truly wealthy wanted to move away, so they built Quality Hill. And the Grant-Humphreys was one of the first homes built in Quality Hill. We were literally on top of the hill. The actual governor's mansion, the current one, is downhill from us, so we were here first. It was a very exclusive neighborhood. It still has a lot of mansions, a lot of old history here. And of course, as the decades passed, people moved further away. So after Quality Hill became crowded, then it was University Hills, then it was Cherry Hills, then Highlands Ranch. So their goal was always to move away from the city. So this was once a very exclusive neighborhood, and the governor's family lived here. They built the home for $35,000. It is enormous. There's 4 floors, there's 12 bathrooms, 12 bedrooms, several nanny's quarters, infant's room, etc. There's a bowling alley, ballroom, shooting gallery. This house was once used to wrap bandages in World War I troops. And then in 1917, it was bought by the Humphries family. And the Humphries family was involved in the oil and steel industry. And A.E. Humphries was actually implicated in the Teapot Dome scandal, which is a very big historic event, which most people don't remember from high school, but basically it was the selling of government land for private use, big no-no. So he was implicated in that. He was going to be arraigned, and he had a small hunting rifle accident on the 3rd floor. So
Interesting.
At the house. So he did not die here. He is not haunting the space, but after that happened, the family actually continued to live here until the 70s.
Wow.
But their wealth had pretty much dissipated, so they couldn't afford the upkeep, and they had to move on, so they donated it to the Colorado Historical Society. And their specific rider on the donation was that it continued to be used for fun and joy and events. They didn't want it to be condos or offices. They specifically wanted it to be hosting events. So,
wow, that's amazing, and you've kept true to that ever since.
We have. We've been hosting events since the 70s.
That's amazing, Rita. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That is great.